everyone, I'm Sequoia from sequoialinsews.wordpress.com, and today I want to take a few minutes to make a quick tutorial on doing a full bicep adjustment. This is an adjustment I make on probably 95% of the garments I make, simply because my biceps are a little bit larger than average, I suppose. So I think this is a common problem that people have, because I get a lot of requests from folks who need to add a little bit more room into their sleeves to get a better fit. So today I'm going to make you a video and we'll see if we can't improve the overall fit of your garments. So for this example, I'm using 5 out of 4 patterns Easy Tee, the sleeve. And if you're not familiar, this is a pattern that I've made many times on my blog, and I've shared it frequently. It's one of my favorite basic t-shirt patterns, but it comes loaded with options, so I really do like it. But again, it requires that I do a bicep adjustment. So what we need to do first is, because this pattern, this is printed and assembled as you get it in your PDF download. It is cut on the fold, which means there's not a specific front or back. But for the sake of this tutorial and adjusting a pattern, we do need a full pattern sleeve. So we do that by making a mirrored copy of the side that we have. So just flip your pattern over. I just put it on some scrap paper taped together. And just a quick outline. I'm using this bright red so you guys can easily see it. And you can see that I'm kind of messy. I'm not the best artist by any means. I'm kind of doing it quickly for the sake of the tutorial, so you guys don't get bored listening to me. So that is the full pattern once they're side by side. You can see that there in the middle I've left a little bit of a margin, and that's just for the sake of taping our two pieces together. You want to line up the top sleeve cap and the bottom. And I like to tape where I actually go slightly overlapping the highest point and the lowest point of our hem. And that's just when we do the next step, our pattern won't fall apart if we accidentally overcut. Add a couple pieces of tape in the middle, and that's really all you need. Then just cut out around your pattern, and if you feel more comfortable with scissors, by all means, use your scissors. This is just how I make the adjustment, and I'm sure every person has their own technique for doing all adjustments, not just a bicep adjustment. But I found that this works really well for me. So I've been doing it for about 2 years now, which is about how long I've been making clothing. So now you can see we have a full pattern. It's all taped together. So now this is where we decide how much we actually need to adjust. And I wrote out my formula here, if you can see that on the camera. My bicep measurement is actually 19 inches. This pattern, minus the seam allowances, and I've drawn that in blue, and then I'll just eyeball it over here for the sake of time. This pattern is 17¼ inches minus the seam allowances that I marked, and I used my serger, so I only marked a 1/4 inch seam allowance. If your pattern says 3/8, by all means do 3/8. So the total difference between the pattern and my bicep is 1 inch and 3/4. So 1 3/4 inches is what I need to get the bare minimum exact fit to my skin. But I like a little bit more ease, just so I have a little bit more room to move around. This is actually an Easy Tee that I'm wearing today, and if you can see, I like it a little loose. I don't like my clothing really tight to my skin. That's not a comfortable fit for me. So I'm going to add an additional 1/2 inch to the 1 3/4 inches, which means overall we need to add 2 1/4 inches to the opening of our pattern to get a comfortable bicep fit for me. And when you're measuring yourself to measure your bicep, you want to measure around the fullest part. Often that's when you make a muscle, that would be the best place to measure. And for your pattern, typically about an inch below the underarm points. So about here would be an appropriate distance to measure, which puts me right at the 17¼ inch mark. Okay, now it's time for us to open up our pattern. And I like to use my quilting rulers for this, simply because they are wide enough to reach all the way across my pattern and I don't have to do multiple cuts. This ruler is 24 inches, so most likely it's going to be long enough to do a sleeve no matter what your size is, compared to a small garment altering ruler such as this one that's only 12 inches. So I like to use my quilting ruler. And the first thing we want to do is we're going to split our pattern right down the middle, basically on that line that we just taped back together. But I don't want you to cut off of either end. I want you to leave a small hinge of paper so it's still connected. Just be careful of your fingers if you choose to use your rotary cutter for this. You might feel better drawing a line and using scissors, or I don't know, whatever method you prefer. But I'm pretty comfortable using my rotary cutter because I basically cut everything with my rotary cutter. And I'm going to do the same thing across the width of my sleeve pattern, leaving a small hinge at both sides. And that just divides our pattern into 4 quadrants. And you'll get these little pieces where we taped. They might fall apart. They might fall out. Just take them off. It's okay. But you can see now my pattern is open, but still connected on all 4 points. Okay, now we need to begin spreading our pattern. And again, we're shooting for 2¼ inches in our opening right here. Sometimes if you didn't cut quite close enough to your edges, you might need to open it up a little bit more for the sake of spreading your pattern. But it should move fairly easily, depending on how much you need to open your pattern up. 2¼ inches, or yeah, 2¼ inches. It's kind of a large amount, I guess, if you think about it. So that's got us at 2 inches. So I just need to go a little bit more. So that's about 2¼ inch opening, which is how much I need to add personally to my sleeves. But again, every person's going to be different. You may only need to add an extra inch to get to your comfortable spot. I like to just put 2 little pieces of tape on each of those overlaps to hold it in place while I'm adding my scrap paper to fill in where we open the pattern up. We want to fill in this entire diamond with paper, and that'll just reinforce our pattern. My tape's getting low, it's really loud. Alright, so now we have our 2¼ inch opening in the middle. Which is actually up here. I guess I should draw my arrow there. But we have to adjust a few more things in our pattern to accommodate for squishing everything towards the middle, which causes us to open it up. First off, we need to adjust along the bottom. As you can see, this paper is my scrap, so I'm going to cut that away so you can see what I'm talking about. You can see that because we adjusted our pattern, it's created this large V across the bottom, and we don't want that. We need to fill in that portion of the pattern, because what would happen if we cut that as the bottom of our sleeve, we would have a very crooked sleeve, and it would actually, if you think about this as the center of your outside arm, it would be angled upward. So unless you're looking for a creative sleeve option, I suppose, we definitely want to correct that. So you don't ever want to cut that line as if it's your sleeve. So I'm going to trim these sides back off. And they're just even with the angle that was already there for the sleeve. And then I want to trim this from one point to the opposite side, and this is exactly where your original pattern starts. And you can just slice across there. Again, I use my quilting ruler and rotary cutter, and that will give us a perfectly square bottom. You can lay it on your cutting mat and you can see it's straight across, so we'll no longer have an angle when we're wearing our garment. And similar issues happening up here. We have a V as well in the middle of our sleeve cap, which we don't want. But we also don't want to raise our sleeve cap up like this. We just kind of want to smooth the distance between the two. So I'm just going to stick an extra little piece of paper in there. And I like to use my small alterations ruler. This one actually, it's curved. It has a sharp curve for the armhole and then a hip curve, which is a little smoother. And I just kind of guesstimate. There's really no, I don't know the science. I'm not a professional. But I just kind of like to smooth that out. Again, this is just the technique that works for me to give me the fit I want. The important thing is we don't want to change the distance of this sleeve cap compared to the distance of our garment, because then your sleeve won't fit. So we want that to remain the same, and we want the bottom to remain the same so it fits your arm